Welcome back to another episode in our Sacramento Miners Relocation Fantasy Draft franchise. This is likely a quick little video, or this is a part of the end of last episode, or the start of the wildcard round. Regardless of the point, we are headed on to the wildcard round here, and we're going to be taking a look at the stats and awards. We have ourselves going against the Raiders here, who have Devontae Adams with an amazing season passing the ball. Is that Joe Burrow's numbers? That looks like Joe Burrow's numbers to me, but of course, we had ourselves a pretty good season, especially for our standards, as Eli Fisher ended up with the second most yards in the league and a pretty damn good completion percentage. Let's take a look at these numbers, though. 36 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, an amazing game last game, and just unfortunately let down by the defense for the most part. Eli Fisher, though, just cracking 5,000 yards as a rookie as well. Really good season, obviously. Looking at rushing, 6 yards short of 1,500 for Tony House, but with the touchdowns, with the yards, and his only fumble this season coming from that game, which was massive. What are the odds? He should go up to Superstar. You know, he should have had Superstar, and we kind of sold anyways. Evans really didn't get much burn, but he was actually okay yards per carry. It just, once again, didn't really get that much burn. We had like a very Derrick Henry-esque season. Cody wasn't at 1,000 yards, had an amazing game last week, and became 1,000-yard of a receiver. Dunn didn't get to 10 touchdowns, but had over 1,000 yards. And then Kennedy, the best receiver on our team, one of the best in the league after 1 year. Probably going to win a Rookie of the Year, and if not, should still go up in dev just because of how good of a season it was. O-line, the right guard, Perkins, was not great, and tackles were actually a little bit more improved this season, but Zion was not a great signing, but what can you do about that? Pressure, a lot of it came from coverage, and a lot of it came from blitzing, as Nakobe Dean came out with 6 sacks as a non-edge rushing linebacker. Bishop with 4, 3.5 for Jones. Obviously, though, Nick Benito, 13. What a year. 8 for Von Sneed, which is okay, but obviously out for 3 weeks because of a dislocation from last game. Morris with 7.5, and then, didn't really see much from Montgomery, who was also injured a lot on the season. 657 snaps played versus Mr. Mike Morris's 919. Looking at the interceptions, 5 for Zion, way down this year. Interceptions, a lot of dropped interceptions, and just worse coverage overall. Tackles for a loss is what they look like. What about fumbles? Forced fumbles, 4 for Tyndall. Nakobe Dean with only 2, which I say only 2 because he should be like the thumper on this team, really. Touchdowns defensively, a few of those actually, which is surprising considering we really didn't take away the ball that much. And then looking at kicking, Kazi missed 3 out of 30, one of them being a 59-yarder last week. Which, kind of cost us the game, too. A lot of, rarities happening in the game that mattered the most. Of course, 67-yard long, so what can you really say? Evans was great with 51.3. Kick return, 1 touchdown for Goodwin with an average of 25 yards per return, which is, right on the dot of where you want it. And then Dunn, 10.9, which is not bad. Let's take a look at the league real quick, and then obviously the awards. Maybe see some XP if we have it. But Joe Burrow, like I said, those were the numbers of Joe Burrow, so I'm not really sure why it's showing that unless they traded him to the Raiders for whatever reason last second. But the number 1 in yards is Burrow. Number 2 is Mac Jones, believe it or not, with the Packers. 3 is Mahomes, and then 4 is Fisher. A lot of 5,000-yard guys this season, though. Looking at the touchdowns, 48 for Burrow, 47 for Mac Jones. A bunch of decent names way above our guy. Interceptions, most thrown for a starter is Anthony Richardson. Second most Fisher. But you know what? Mahomes only 1 less interception than Fisher. And, you compare Hollenbach to Fisher, who obviously Hollenbach isn't even a rookie. Not much less interceptions, 6 less touchdowns, though, 400 yards less. And that's all with less completion percentage, which means that we slang the ball more, if you will. Passer rating, number 1 in the league was Lamar Jackson with a 39 touchdown, a 5 interception ratio. Mac Jones was great, too. I think Mac Jones might be the MVP. Great ratio here, but the yards just are so much lower. Good stuff there from those guys. Who had the most yards per attempt? That goes to Mac Jones. You assume Mac Jones, it was him, right? Longest throw was Hollenbach for 94 yards. Most sacked quarterback goes to Brock Purdy at 49. Where was our guy? Obviously, we threw a lot of interceptions and throwaways like last second rather than taking the hit. Completion percentage, our guy has got to be one of the lowest completion percentage guys. But Levis was up there with 72%. Mac Jones. If I could, if I was the voters, I would definitely give it to him, in my opinion. Rushing, Zeke went ridiculously off. So honestly, maybe he won't be a superstar. Just in the AFC alone, the 5th yards guy, touchdowns, in fairness, would be the actually 6 yards guy, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tied for 5th. He might actually not be superstar. I'm pretty sure that's not how, I think you need to be 4th. It might be top 8, to be fair. I don't know. Let's take a look at the other numbers, though. Best yards per carry player was, based on, kind of average minimums, Derrick Henry with 5.8. That's actually ridiculous. The most touchdowns or fumbles, quarterback, doesn't really count. Who had the longest run? 98 for Mr. Mixon. What was Tony House's longest run? It couldn't have been that high, maybe like 50. Yeah, 51, which is, that's all right in fairness. Yards after contact, Tony House had the most. He was him. He had more to do than any of these other players. 549 yards after contact with, like top 15-ish broken tackles. Oh, where the hell was he? Yeah, top 10 broken tackles, actually. Let's take a look at receiving yards. Number 1 is DJ Moore, especially after last game. Where was our guys? Kennedy? Did I miss him? Kennedy up in the top 15 range. Touchdowns. Tied for 3rd with a bunch of different players, obviously. Yards per game goes to DJ Moore. Yards per catch goes to Julio Jones, my guy. But as far as like real players, DJ Chark. Kennedy is way up there, though, at 17.1, which is awesome. Run after the catch, Hamler was the number 1 guy. Run after catch average, I would suppose, to be DJ Hamler as well. 94-yard was the longest. And then we look at blocking. The best blocker would not be him because he didn't play that many snaps. Sheriff was pretty good. Connor Williams was pretty good, but those guys are interior guys, so it doesn't really count. You'd be looking more like a tackle. So Darisaw apparently was the best, in my opinion, and then the best right tackle would have been Wynn. The worst being Trevor Penning and technically Neal, if you're looking at both sides of the line. I did not notice that that's how many tackles he had, though. Nakobe Dean with 170. Those are like sim numbers. The fact that we got that many playing all of our games on 10-minute quarters is insane. That is a dev up. 170 tackles, especially joining a new team, is ridiculous. The most tackles for a loss, Christian Wilkins, and I suppose even then, Dean's not that far off on that either. Sack totals, 20 for Max Crosby, a bunch of other guys kind of close, but looking at Benito, he's 13th, so he would have been in the top 10 for sacks. Interceptions, the highest was 7, it seems to be. And then I'm curious to see the forced fumbles. 4 for Aaron Donald, 4 for Tyndall. And then the most touchdowns, Nakobe Dean tied with Donovan Wilson. If Nakobe Dean doesn't get a dev up, he could even have a case for Defensive Player of the Year here. He very well could be. Could have a case. The most kicks made is Kazu. Based on completion percentage, he won't get it. But honestly, there's something to be said about him being forced to star dev here. I really think he should be. Boswell might be the only other guy that was better than him this season. And, he's not even in this conference. So, Kazu should have won best kicker for AFC. He might still, but missing 3 kicks, they look for the 100% no matter what. I think he was the best kicker, especially when you consider he probably had way more long kicks. Look at that. 9 for 12. Who was even close? Oh, I'm forcing it. I'm sorry. Maybe I won't force it now, but I'm going to force it if he doesn't have it at the Super Bowl, but he should. He should. Actually, I will force it now if he doesn't win Kicker of the Year on the AFC side, because obviously that's how you get it, right? Best punter was technically Townsend. And he blocked. I guess I don't really care about that stuff too much, to be honest, but Buckhalter, the slow wide receiver, he got one on us, too. I don't know if he actually got the return, but he did really well. Didn't even play that many downs. What a kick returner specialist. Good one with the most yards, of course, and then most yards on punt return is done as well. And those are the stats. Now it's time for the awards. Actually, let's take a quick look at how we finished here. So we were 10th in offensive yardage. What about passing yards? Passing yards, we were like 12th maybe. Rushing yards at maybe like 15 points per game at number 1, barely. Passing touchdowns in per game, or total anyways, about 12. rushing touchdowns, about maybe 20th. So not great. Yards allowed, we should be up there because we have those quarter lengths, but I guess not. We still gave up a lot of yards. Most sacks in the league was us. Most fumbles, almost us. Most interceptions, us. So one of the big things for this defense, taking the ball away, and that is how we did it. Rushing defense is actually pretty good, but passing defense was one of the worst in the league, it seems. But 10th in offense, which is good for overall offense rank, and then defense 16th, which is good enough. Let's take a look at last week's Player of the Week in fairness, and then the yearly awards. Obviously did not win MVP, but Joe Burrow did. I would have given it to Mac Jones personally, but Joe Burrow was pretty good too. Coach of the Year goes to our guy, Emmanuel Ortega, 10-7. Very fair. Very fair. From last season to this season, totally worth it. Absolutely deserved it. Don't really care too much about the NFC side. We're going to look at the AFC side, Offensive Player of the Year. We were on the list at number 10 with Kennedy, so he looks like he might be the guy. Dean, third. At least he got some votes. Third, it's usually the rushers that get it, but third for the Defensive Player of the Year award with Bishop coming in at 9. As far as non-pass rushers go, there actually was a couple of them in fairness. Rookie of the Year, Kennedy, Fisher at number 2. And then, of course, Escobar at 9. I'm not really sure what he did to deserve that. And then Snead, even though he had a pretty iffy year, once again, it doesn't take much to get Defensive Rookie of the Year. It's hard to get a lot of sacks as a rookie. He got 8, a lot of coverage sacks, a lot of help from Benito, but we cleaned up on Rookie of the Year at least. Best quarterback, were we even on the list? Not even on the list because of those interceptions. Rushing, we were at number 8 from freaking Tony House. Kennedy at number 3 for wide receiver, so he's a Pro Bowler and X Factor, I'd imagine. O-line at number 7, the backup Caleb Jones. Best D-line, Nick Benito, looks to be a playoff or a Pro Bowler. Best linebacker, Nakobe Dean at number 3. Best DB at number 3, number 5, and surprisingly not another one. And then kicker all the way at 4, despite having by far the best season. Eddie Cole, let's see. I'm going to guess like 3 for 3. That's what I'm going to guess. Let's take a look at it. And 7 for 7, which is better, but it's still nowhere near. He's not going to get it out of up because he didn't win Best Kicker, but he absolutely deserves it this season. So I will be forcing him to star Dev. I don't care what anyone says. He was the best kicker, and EA has got to find a better way to decide who the best kicker is based on the awards, because missing 3 kicks out of 30 with like 30+% of them being from 50+, not winning it versus a 7 for 7 guy, like, come on, dude. How was his first season, actually? Missed 3 as well, but that was of 23, so it's not quite as much as this. Did attempt more from that deep range, though, so could have maybe even argued that he was best kicker last year, too, but this year for sure, there's no arguing it. Missing 3 out of 30 is pretty impressive, and especially when you look at the other season, other games, or other seasons from the other players. We don't have any upgrades as of right now, it seems, but we might with the weekly strategy, so we'll obviously leave that for now. If there is any upgrades, we will slap it on now, but I do not see that. But yeah, to recap what dev-ups we might have, Kennedy should be an X Factor. Fisher, I don't think he'll be a superstar, but he has a chance. House, I don't think he's going to go to superstar, but he has a chance. And then looking at defense, should have a dev-up from Nick Benito. Should have a dev-up from Snead, even though it seems unfair. Might have an upgrade from Bishop. Could have an upgrade from Allen. Absolutely should have one from Nakobe Dean. And I believe that probably will be it. Looking at the edge, though, we have Ellis. We have Enikbari. I might have to check if we have one more. If we can have one more guy, then I'll probably won't touch free agency. But if we don't, then I probably will go for someone like Robert Quinn or something like that. But that is it for the stats and awards. We did all right. Cleaned up those rookie awards like we said. We came close on a couple of other ones. And overall, competed pretty well at a lot of different positions with some of the best in the league. So, yeah, very happy with that. Got Coach of the Year, which is absolutely deserving because, 10-7 after the season we had and the roster we have is pretty impressive. Fisher was a huge help with that, and because of him and this team effort, we are in the playoffs. Going up against the Raiders, who are 12-5. Of course, it's going to be a noon game, which isn't very, exciting, but that's what happens when you're not the most exciting team. But if we win this game, maybe the heads will start turning a little bit more. We're a super fun team to watch. So if we win, people might think, hey, they got a shot. Let's give them a prime time. I don't know. But that's about it Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed, maybe leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. If you're not new, really appreciate your continued support a ton. And, yeah, assuming this is a standalone video, you will see this wildcard game a little bit later today. So be on the lookout for that. Hope you guys come back for next video. But until next video, see ya.